Yeah, I think it needs updating. I think there's a lot of people in situations where the law doesn't really help them, and I think it's, I think the decision making should be put a bit more in the hands of those individuals. So yeah, I think it should be updated and should be reviewed, and there should be more voice for people.
I would agree, because nobody should have to suffer if they don't want to. And yes, it's something I think it's something within the human rights, the person rights to decide what to do with their life and their bodies.
It depends on the circumstances. If the person involved wants assisted dying and it's clearly their choice to want that, and it's not imposed on them by anybody else, then given that, we would support it in principle.
Yeah, I think they need to change law because in UK they don't need to travel to Switzerland to do this. Yeah.
I think that it is everyone's kind of right. If they feel like they're in suffering, then no one else really has that choice to make for them. I think that they should be able to make it themselves.
I think they should. Yeah.
I think that it's a change that definitely we should be looking at this day and age in the UK.
Well, it's a good question. I suppose I'm not an expert, but somebody perhaps had a terminal illness and the quality of life was so painful and poor that they wanted to end it sooner rather than later. Potentially somebody who has such a serious disability or illness and was very clear that they wanted to end their lives sooner rather than later.
I think everyone.
I think people who obviously have an illness and it's untreatable, then I think that they should.
Probably, I would say the terminally ill persons, terminally ill people.
I mean, it should be ratified by doctors, like maybe confirmed by 2 doctors to say that they're not insane or anything. But then, yes, they should got anyone who qualifies for that.
I think people who are in those conditions, if they have either, incurable disease, they're suffering, and maybe whether they have a time frame or not, if their quality of life is suffering quite a lot and it's going to be ongoing, then I feel like they should be able to have the option.
It kind of depends on how painful. If they're suffering and they're in pain, I don't think a time really matters. It's kind of like if they want to go, then they should be able to go.
No, I totally disagree, because it's up to the person, is how I view it.
Surely everyone has a different situation, and putting in stringent barriers is, going to affect people who do need it but just aren't in that criteria.
If you are not the person suffering, probably you should not have to decide how much time is okay for saying, okay, you can ask for assisted death. I mean, everyone is different, and I think every experience is different. So,
Emma's saying that whether or not people should be allowed to terminate their lives if they have more than 6 months life expectancy, it's a difficult one. I'm not really quite sure how to answer that. It would depend on the circumstances, I think, but every case will be different.
No, not personally, but I come from Italy, and there have been a case that had a huge media resonance of a person. His name was Fabio, but was known as DJ Fabo, and he had to travel to Switzerland to have an assisted death. And now the people who helped him they are still being prosecuted. I don't really know how it ended. But they had some problems with the Italian law because they have been considered criminals, but obviously, in my opinion, they should not be considered criminals.
Well, my granddad is actually dying from cancer, so I think that given the fact that he's recently turned down having any more chemo, I think that he may have wanted the possibility.
Yeah, it's not an easy decision, but if it's what she wants or what he wants, and if he's really in bad condition, I think, you need to do that. Yeah, there is no point to suffer another 20 years for nothing. Yeah.
Depends on how much they wanted it. If I knew that there was kind of a waiver or possibility that they didn't want it, then I wouldn't allow them to.
I don't know, that's quite a strong one. Obviously it'd be quite upsetting and traumatizing. But obviously, I don't know if the situation, that's what they really wanted and their quality of life wasn't great. I don't know, it'd be very conflicting. But I don't know, I guess I would support them if that's what, I felt was what they wanted and what was needed.
Obviously, I would ask them if they are sure, but as hurting it could be, I would probably try to understand their point of view, and obviously I would not try to hinder their experience. As far as I know, and I have to admit I know very little about the legal things, probably not, because they are considered like they are doing something unlawful against the law. But in this case, it's the law that I think is not up to the modern world.
It doesn't seem like it's very forward-thinking. It seems quite against it. So, yeah, I don't know enough about the legalities of it, but from what I've heard, it doesn't seem to be.
Yes, definitely.
In this country, yeah.
It's not really the government's decision to make, it's up to the individual in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly a case for reviewing the law and looking at the pros and cons, and I'd be interested to learn more from that.
By talking with people who have had a first-hand experience of assisting a person, or people who are suffering and want to choose this path.
Education about the situation, maybe more understanding, and stuff like documentary about people, or something that really allows you to kind of enter the situation a bit more and understand where people are coming from.
And I think they need to check case by case. But if 88% of the people in the UK is pro this law, so they need to change, or they need to start to consider this one.
Yeah, I think that would be good, to put stuff factually on the table so that they can review it, and then, hopefully they would make the right decision.